Hi, I'm Ginny Rosenkrantz for the University of Maryland Extension. Well, it's December, and a lot of people think December is not a good time to be out in the garden. Well, it depends. If the weather's warm enough, go out in the garden and play. But if it's not, come on inside and see some really cool things. I'm going to talk to you guys today about poinsettias, different types of poinsettias, so that if you're into bright and bold or soft and mellow, there's different poinsettias for you. We're also going to do some fun things with pine cones and some basic things to make these really cool and funky bird food containers, which is sort of neat. We're also going to go ahead and spend a little time working with flower arranging. Don't let flowers intimidate you. So join me for Delmarva Gardens coming up next on Pack 14. Sometimes it's a little too cold to play out in a garden. But you know, December has its ups and downs, so if it is warm, go outside and play. If it's not, come inside and play. What I have here is a variety of poinsettias that to me really symbolize the holiday seasons. I just love flowering plants, and these are absolutely gorgeous ones. And I just sort of wanted to share a couple of really cool colors, because if you've got a color scheme in your house, there's probably a poinsettia that fits it. Like this one right here, this is classic. This is a classic red one. Notice how all these, actually these are not the flowers. If you look right on the inside here, these little teeny tiny things, those are the poinsettia flowers, really, really tiny. But the bright red things that we have here, these are called bracts, but they still have the color and they're spectacular too. These bright red ones are the classic red. So if you've got a house that goes with classic reds, this is perfect. On the other hand, if you're more into a deeper, darker, richer colors, notice the two of these together. This one right here in my right is a maroon. And notice how the colors are a little bit darker, a little richer, almost a velvety color. The other thing I want you to notice is that the bracts on this one are kind of like oval with a one point, very, very few points on this one, whereas this one right here, let me put this baby down here. I want to be careful with these guys. This one's got a couple of different points. If you look at it, it's got a point here, a point there, and a point there. So these are pointy poinsettias. They're kind of neat. I'm going to put them back over here for a second. Poinsettias are actually from Mexico, and if you can keep that in mind, then you'll know how to take care of them. This one is really pretty. This one is in pink, so it's a soft pink. What's nice about this one also, it's a very small, compact poinsettia. So this one right here would be awesome to have even on a dining room table, because it's small enough that you can actually see over the poinsettia to look at the person who is across the table from you and carry on a decent conversation, rather than having to go, what, huh? What'd you say? So I do like this. I like the size, I like the compactness, I like the fact that no matter which direction you turn it, it is beautiful. The colors are spectacular. Neat, neat, neat. Okay, this one is a new variety. This one has got red bracts with white on the inside. It's very different and it's very bright, and I think that if you have a dark room, I think that the white and the red bracts kind of sparks it up. It always gives a little bit of a sparkle to it. And again, the foliage here is a dark, rich green, so that contrasts really nicely with the red. This is a good clear red. It's not a burgundy. It's a nice, clear, true red. It's got a lot of the blue reds in it, so I like this one too. When I was saying that these are from Mexico, the reason why I mentioned that is that they like to have a room that is a little on the warm side, which is what we like to live in. We like to live in a room that we don't have to put 5 sweaters. 1 sweater is fine. This can handle 1 sweater temperature also. The other reason why I mentioned that is, if you think about it, Mexico is hot and dry. That means that the soil that these poinsettias are used to growing in is warm, but also dry. One of the easiest ways to kill a poinsettia is to overwater it and keep it in the plastic pot and let it sit in water, and all those roots drown or turn into diseases or something. So when you bring your poinsettia home, always make sure that it's kept in a bright sunny window or close to the bright window if you can. You can go ahead and put it on the table when you decide you're going to have dinner or entertainment for whatever. And then when you're done the next day, put it so that it gets a lot of light near a window. And also, when you water it, maybe water it once a week, and always feel the soil to feel if the soil feels dry or not. And if it feels moist on top, don't water it. Give it a couple more days. Let it dry out a little bit. You don't want the leaves to curl and fall off, of course, but if you touch the soil and the soil's a little on the dry side, you know you're good. So I like this one because of the brightness of it. Let me put this one back here. This one over here is a little bit of a contrast between that. This one is white, but it's got pink on the inside. This is called marble, and this is an old-fashioned idea, but it's very pretty, and it's a nice change of pace besides having something that's just bright red. A lot of times poinsettias, the white ones are almost a creamy white instead of the pure white. The older varieties of poinsettias that were pure white got to be 6 foot high. And that's great if you're going to have a huge house, but if people like you and I live in a regular house, having a 6 foot high poinsettia is a little bit much. So having a regular poinsettia like this being a little bit creamy is a good idea. So this is marble, creamy white with a little bit of a pink color. Sometimes these color a little bit later in the season, but this is the first week in December and they're absolutely spectacular. So this is very nice. And again, the foliage is a nice dark rich green. Okay, let me put this one down here. And here's the last one. This is a new variety. It's been out for a couple of years, but I think it's kind of cool because if you look at the bracts, like this one right here, it's almost the shape of a holly leaf. It's got a lot of the different little nooks and crannies that a holly leaf would have. So this is called a holly-leafed poinsettia, which is kind of neat. The color is a nice, true, rich red. I think this is called claret or something like that, but it's very, very nice. Another reason why I mentioned that these are grown in Mexico or the really hot climates is that when you're buying a poinsettia, you want to make it sure that this is the last purchase that you're going to buy before you're going to go directly home. Make sure that it has a nice cover. This one has got a nice little cover where what the florist could do is just pull it up like this very carefully. And what this does is it protects the foliage and the bracts and the little flowers. There we go. Notice it's got holes here. And that's so that there's not a lot of moisture and dense air just building up there, because if you have that for a long time, you can get a lot of diseases. This makes it easier to grab and to carry. But this is also, because it does have these air holes, if it's really cold outside, try to make sure that this is wrapped up in maybe newspapers or a big shopping bag, anything that's going to protect it from the cold, because anything anything under 40 degrees is going to be just so cold that this little plant's not going to be happy. And you'll get actually some burn around not only the bracts but the foliage. As soon as you get home, the first thing you want to do is take this covering and squish it on down like this. There we go. And see, that way your plant looks gorgeous. Take it out of the plastic, and you're ready to go ahead and put it in a container of your own, or just put it on a saucer, either way. If you have a container of your own, just every now and then check it to make sure that when you water it, the water is not sitting there, because again, you don't want to have root rot. But these are beautiful. And the nice thing about poinsettias is that the color here should stay all through the season. I've had mine stay colorful into the springtime. And then at the end of this spring, when it's getting warm enough to plant things outside, after the last danger of frost, I will often take this out in the garden and plant it in the garden and let it grow all summer. It gets almost as tall as me. Well, not quite that tall because it's not that high, but it gets pretty tall. It gets about 2 to 3 feet high, and it is kind of fun. And then I don't worry about bringing it up again in the next year. I let it stay in my garden. I let the frost kill it off, and every year I buy a new one because they're so pretty. When the florists do a good job with it, it's a good idea to get a new one. Okay, let's put this one down too. There we go, poinsettias. Beautiful plants for the holidays. One other thing I thought would be fun to share with you right now is an idea that you can do with your kids. This is taking pine cones and turning them into bird feeders. What do you need? Well, first of all, you need some pine cones. And I've got a bunch of different pine cones here. Now these pine cones here are closed pine cones. Notice how they're really tightly fused to the ones right in front of them. And that's a good idea for some decorative ideas, but what I want is I want to have a pine cone like this that's opened up. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mixture of peanut butter and Crisco and oatmeal and cornmeal, and I'm going to mix it all together, and I'm going to stuff it into all these little nooks and crannies of this pine cone, and then that will be a bird feeder that the kids can hang up outside to feed the wild birds, which is kind of fun. Okay, first thing we're going to do is get some pine cones. I got a bunch here, and I've got a bunch in here too. It doesn't matter where you get them, although to be honest with you, it's a lot more fun to go out in the wild and get them. I did get these because it was easy to find them. And then I realized after I got here that there's a whole bunch of pine cones. So I'll just go ahead and take some of these out too. There we go. And if you have closed pine cones like these, put them on a cookie tray. Set the temperature of the oven to 200 degrees, maybe a little less, and put them in the oven for, well, it depends on how humid these guys have been. Maybe you put them in the oven for maybe 10 minutes and then check them, 15 minutes and then check them. And what you want them to do is to open out just like this does. Okay? So there we go. We'll go ahead and put these ones over there. All right, so what I want to do is I've got these pine cones and I've got these pine cones, beautiful pine cones. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have them tied up, because if you try to put a tie on them after you've put the peanut butter stuff on them, you're going to be wearing peanut butter all over yourself. Now that's a fun look for some people, but not for everybody. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. Some people like to hot glue them, and I think that this will be fine just to go ahead and tie it on, just like this. I try to use a type of material that's going to eventually rot down or compost. So this is just Rudbeckia, which is just a plain plant material. There we go. I'll do 2 or 3 of them because it's kind of fun to see how it works. The other thing is, because this is a peanut butter mixture, you want to make sure that if you're going to have your children do this, or you're having friends of your children do this, make sure that nobody's allergic to peanuts. There are so many different children now with allergies that you've got to be very, very aware of this. And if they have peanut butter allergies, this is not a toy that you guys want to be making. If they don't have peanut allergies, this is a fun, messy thing to do. Okay, let's put that there. Good, and one more. So we'll get 3 done. And of course, I'm using this red ribbon because it's so festive. It's easy for the kids to find, and I think sometimes it's easier for the little birds to find too. Here's a nice pine cone. This one's so nicely open that we can really stuff that full with lots and lots of peanut butter, which is kind of fun. Okay, just a simple little square knot works, just a square knot. Kind you learn in Scouts. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, how to make this. It's really a difficult recipe. You start with peanut butter. Any kind of peanut butter would do. I got extra crunchy, but you don't have to get extra crunchy. And you need to have, you can use suet, or you can use lard, or you can just use Crisco. And I got that because it's easy to find. And then you want to add some cornmeal and some oatmeal. You can also add, if you want, chopped up nuts, chopped up dried fruit, whatever you want. It's kind of fun. Okay, what you do is you add equal parts. So I'm going to put in half of a can of peanut butter. And again, it can be creamy, it can be chunky, it can be full more peanuts. There's other kinds of butters out there. Almond butter, all kinds. So if your child does not like peanuts, but does like almond butter, you go ahead and use that. Okay, there we go. There's the peanut butter. I'll try to keep things a little bit neat around here. Okay, and now the Crisco. So I used about, looks like about 1.5 cups of that. So I'll go ahead and try to do the same thing here without throwing this around. There we go. Okay, maybe one more. There we go. Okay, and there's the Crisco. Put that over there. Okay, oh, there's the top. Okay, now here's my oatmeal. And notice how carefully I'm measuring out. There we go. There's the oatmeal. And I'm going to do the same for the cornmeal. The reason why you're having all of these different meals in it is it helps put it all together, and it's all nutritious for the birds too. There we go, 2, and let's do one more. Whoop. There we go. I don't think that there's a wrong way to measure this. You do have to clean up after yourself though. There we go. Okay, the next thing we have to do is put a little bit of bird food on it. Bird seed is what the birds eat naturally, and what we're doing is we're supplying them with a little bit more protein with the peanut butter. We're actually adding a little bit of fat for them with the Crisco, and we're adding a little bit more meal with both the oatmeal and the cornmeal. But they're very used to bird seed, so I'll go ahead and pour some. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pour it on the plate like that, and on them, and what I chose is the kind of bird seed that's really small. And what I want to do is kind of roll this in it. This is really funny. Okay, here we go. There we go. What a mess. This is so much fun. This might be a good project to do out on a porch also if the weather's not too bad, because this can get to be a little bit messy, but oh, that is adorable. Isn't that cool? Here we go. And then again, once you've got the birdseed in it, you can actually squish this in a little bit more, just getting it a little bit further into the nooks and cranny and press more birdseed into it. That would work really nice. There we go. There we go. So now all we need to do is hang this up in a tree and let the birds enjoy. Isn't that cute? So one thing I would suggest, and because I have a dog that loves peanut butter, is hang it high enough that your peanut butter loving dogs cannot get them. Make sure that the birds can get them, but not the dogs, okay? There we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clean up, and then we're going to go ahead and look at maybe doing something with flowers to make the season a little bit brighter. You know, when you're playing with plant material, it's really fun to have the plant material that you want to use in your own backyard. And if you don't have what you want, go see if you can find some from your neighbors. It's a good way to get to know your neighbors. This is Nandina, also called heavenly bamboo, and I love it because even though the foliage is not totally winter hardy, I love the berries, especially this time of year. I can leave the berries on and use the whole stalk like this in a larger arrangement, or I can just go ahead and cut the berries off and use them, depending on the size of the arrangement that I'm making. The one thing I want to show you, though, is every now and then when you bring in some plants from the outside, you might find a little piggyback plant. This is the egg case of a praying mantis, and it's kind of neat, but you do not want to leave this in the house, because as you have certain degrees of warmth in the house that you don't have outside, this is going to feel like summer to the little guys that are here. They will hatch out and you'll have little miniature praying mantises all over your house. Not what you want for the holidays. There's ornaments and ornaments. You want to have those. If you see this, the best thing to do is just to take your clippers and cut that off, right, like that. And just take this on outside and put it back in the garden. If it's left in the garden, then the praying mantis will hatch out. They're pretty decent beneficials. They eat everything. So if you have a butterfly bush, don't put it near the butterfly bush, because the little praying mantises will sit on the butterfly bush and eat all the butterflies. But anyways, take it outside. Like I said, I love the Nandina for the red berries because it's so bright. I also have some plants here that's kind of neat. This one right here is just a regular arborvitae, a nice green, narrow-needled little plant, really silky, easy to use. It's not spiky, and it's very bendable, so it's kind of fun to use. A lot of people have Leland cypress as a hedge. This is a piece of a Leland cypress. Again, a really good, rich green, bendable, easy to work with, fun, and you can make it, you can use large pieces or small pieces. That's what I like about this. I also like boxwood. Now, boxwood sometimes has an odor that not always what you want. This one's not too bad. This is the American box, and American box has got longer, narrower needles, dark, rich green, and quite often they'll have like little teeny fruiting bodies right there that's like little seed pods, and they're kind of fun. Some people think that they're like almost bugs, but to me they look like little flowers, little teeny dried flowers. What I like about the boxwood is that the leaves are small, so you can use it in a large arrangement or a small arrangement, and that works out nicely. And the last thing I have here just for fun is cedar. This is just regular old American red cedar. But what I like about this particular one, a friend of mine had it, and I called her up and said, "Do you mind if I borrow some of your cedar?" She's like, "Are you going to give it back?" Maybe in an arrangement I might. But this has got little blue berries on it, little waxy blue berries. And I love the fragrance of the cedar. So this is kind of fun. The other thing that I like to share and use in my arrangements are herbs. And these are herbs that I have out growing in my own herb garden, which is right outside the door. This is sage, and sage has got a nice gray-green kind of a fuzzy look to it. It curls up a lot when it's cold, and as you have it in the house, it'll probably warm up and uncurl for a while, and then as it dries out, it'll curl again too. So I think the curling is sort of neat. This is thyme, really, really tiny foliage, very, very tiny leaves, and again, a nice little scent. And I like the look of this, kind of like a comb, sort of neat. And I also have some rosemary. Rosemary is a dark, resinous, dark green. And if you move your hand over it Oh, it smells delightful. But again, this is a nice color for a lot of different things. What I like about using herbs is they add a lot of fragrance as well as color and texture to your flower arrangement. I've got a couple of different arrangements right here that I could go ahead and play with. This is a little swan that I have that I put one of the old-fashioned picks in it. These are very, very sharp. So if you're going to have your children help with it, make sure that they realize that these are very sharp. They're called needles, actually, and they're as sharp as needles. But it's nice because it's weighted, and if I put it down in here, I can go ahead and stick flowers in here and even small twigs, and they'll stay there. This is just a little nut dish that you can go ahead and put some things in here. If you're going to use this as an arrangement container, you're going to have to add something to it, which would be like these little marbles. You can use regular marbles, or you can go ahead and use something like these. These are colored for Christmas or for the holidays, which is kind of fun. But what you do is you go ahead and put them in the bottom, just like that. And then when you, let me go ahead and fill this up a little bit more. There we go, probably a little bit too much. When you add water, you can go ahead and stick your plants in there, and they'll little teeny glass tiles will hold them where you want them to. And of course, it's the traditional little containers. Now, the reason why I'm using small ones like these is that if you're going to have them on a table where you're going to have friends and you want to talk to your friends over the table, you don't want to have an arrangement that's so big you can't see anybody through the arrangement. So you make a small arrangement, something that's going to be kind of fun, that's going to give you the atmosphere of the flowers without being too big. Okay, then let's get on to the flowers. What would you use? Well, something like these roses are wonderful, a little bit of fragrance, but you'd want to use them very sparingly because they are so big, especially with these containers. I would probably save this for either large one, or what I would do, oh, let's go ahead and do that. First of all, you should always have water in these things, but you know me, I'm not having water. Not quite yet. I'm going to go ahead and cut all of these off. Now, roses you should really cut underwater when you're making the cut, but I could go ahead and just position these pretty closely like this. Okay, this one needs to be cut a little bit more. There we go. And have them so that it's such a tight bouquet that all you see is the roses. Let me go ahead and get this a little bit more. There we go. And one more of this. There we go. So now I have a rose bouquet, and I can go ahead and add, let's see, I can go ahead and add a little bit of thyme just to get a little bit of greenery in there. There we go. And a little bit more there. Maybe some rosemary, just to add, again, a little bit of greenery. Now, I'm not a florist, but I like to play with flowers, and I think that sometimes it's fun to go ahead and just give it a shot. There we go. So that's kind of nice. Something like that would be very simple, just a couple of roses, no problems. And sometimes simple is really, really easy. Okay. Let's go ahead and try one more, just for fun. Okay. I'm going to put this over here for the time being. All right, now what I think I'll do is just play with this a little bit. This is just a little, like I say, a candy dish or something. You can use any type of container as long as it holds water as a flower arrangement or a flower holder. So if I used a plant like this is way too big. So proportionally, this would be cool, but way too big. So let's go ahead and leave this one back in here. I'm going to go ahead with the small button mums and the regular daisies, because I think that even though these daisies are large, they still would work with what I want. So let me go ahead and make a few cuts here. And see if I could go ahead and stick them in sideways. I think that these little tiles will hold things in place. I think that that's still too tall. There we go. Stick that in. You want to have the larger flowers closer to the base. The reason why you want to do that is proportionate. This is just, it looks heavier, it looks larger, so you want to have them closer. There we go. I'm going to make this smaller too. Anyways, there we go. And this one a little bit, again, maybe smaller too. There we go. Got those. And then I'm going to have some smaller flowers. The tinier ones, you can go ahead and have them a little higher up because they look lighter and airier. If I had baby's breath, that would even be lighter and even better, I think. But let's go ahead and just play that right there. Whoops, on the side. See, there's really nothing wrong with making or playing with flower arrangements. And if you don't like the way it looks, take it apart and do it again. It's just a lot of fun. Okay, let's see, do I like that? How's that look? I think that's fine. And again, it's just very, very simple. It's white with a little bit of a yellow-green center, and then again, picking up the same colors with this. And I think I could probably go ahead and add maybe, let's go ahead and use some of this sage, just to pick up that little gray-green color. And I'll just use it down here as if it was part of the tail. There we go. Just something a little different, and maybe some of the thyme. Again, just for the fun of the proportion. Let's see if I put that there. Maybe too much. Nope, nope, nope. I'm going to add some more flowers. Sometimes you have to say, okay, enough, enough. But I'm not done yet. Let's see, one more. Put it right there. There we go. Okay, that's what I like. Now I think I'm done. It's fun to play with flowers. It's fun to play with color. Don't let the color intimidate you. If you're sort of a novice or you're not sure, go ahead and start with the white. You can never go wrong with that. If you've got colors, schemes in your house that are the reds or the blues, go with the bright reds and the bright pinks. If your color schemes are more of the yellows or maybe the oranges or salmon, go with a little bit more of the orange or the salmony color flowers, or again, just the whites. It's a lot of fun. When you're finished doing all your flower arranging, and sit down and have fun with it because it really is fun. When you're done with all the flower arranging, what you should do is you should collect the ones that you're not going to use and put them back in water and do them another time. But remember, all of this greenery can be composted. When you're done with your flower arrangement with using your plant materials, this can be composted too. And speaking of composting, one of the other things you can do is if you're getting the peanut in packaging that is, I guess they call it vegetable-based or starch-based peanuts, you can go ahead and put those on your compost pile too. And when you're done with your Christmas tree, you can cut that up into small pieces, smaller branches, and put that on your compost pile as well. How can you tell if the peanuts are vegetable-based, you ask? Well, if you put them in a glass of water and you add the peanuts to the water and stir it up, if it's vegetable-based or starch-based peanuts, they will actually dissolve. If they just sort of float there, don't put those in your compost pile. Those are probably styrofoam or something like that. But if you can get the ones that are biodegradable, then that's better for the whole world. Well, thank you very, very much for joining me. I've had a lot of fun playing with flowers, making some unusual arrangements and some very traditional arrangements. And it's been fun talking about the poinsettias and doing the bird food pine cone holders. Those are a lot of fun. Take time to enjoy the holidays. Take time to play with your kids, to go out in your garden, take your critters out in the garden, and just enjoy. So again, thank you for joining me for Delmarva Gardens right here on Pack 14.